discussed strategy in the process of retooling creative industry strategic approach. We listened happy people, the Oscar-bearing Bill Gutentag, Andrei Fedorov, the marketing expert. We learned that on PR the team is important. We had representatives of show business and design. And today we have the second day of our intensive program, including panel discussions with high-level officials, leading experts in the field of creative industries. Also, we shall have an opportunity to hear presentations of Ukrainian teams who became finalists of Destination Imagination. In the afternoon, we shall have sectoral modules, like we had yesterday on book publishing, design, innovations, crafts. I would add something about the weather. Design partnership module from Ukrainian Cultural Fund, Cultural Foundation. The experts will share their opinion, cases, and experience. Look for answers to the key questions, ways of formation of creative economies, because International Forum Creative Ukraine is the biggest platform in Ukraine, which gives opportunity to ask those questions and to look for answers. And also, I must tell you, the forum organized by the Ministry for Culture and Information Policy with support of USAID, competitive economy of Ukraine and transformation of communications, online broadcasting in Ukrainian and English on YouTube channel Creative Ukraine, the impression on social networks. If you post anything, please place hashtag Creative Ukraine, Ukraine with a capital letter, a single word. My name is Lesia Nikituk, and we shall continue staying here. For the second time, you can watch it, so dear friends, and this is my pleasure to invite to the stage for the welcome address the Director of Italian Institute of Culture of Ukraine, President of EUNIC in Ukraine, Edoardo Crisafulli. Buongiorno. If we can say this about today, indeed.
In Ukraine, youth is so well educated, so there's a lot of potential here. Since we're talking of creativity and innovation, cultural industries. Of course, they are the heart of our European project, Union, and there's a very important paper I suggest you read. It's the EU Green Paper, Unlocking the Potential of Cultural and Creative Industries. Culture and creative industries now are at the forefront of our economic growth, and they also make a huge contribution to the welfare of civil society. We have design, fashion, architecture, advertising, new media, video games, interactive arts, you name it. Especially people of my generation, they have witnessed a big, huge, momentous change in our societies, this shift away from traditional manufacturing towards services and innovation. As the Green Paper observes, factory floors are progressively being replaced by creative communities whose raw material is their ability to imagine, create and innovate. So you have a lot of raw material here, your ability to create, imagine. I wish you all the best and our most productive sessions today.
Thank you, grazie. Дякуємо вам дуже за напутні слова. Ну і тепер
And now very quickly I go here to give the floor to the acting Deputy Director of USAID Mission to Ukraine and Belarus, Marc Ellingstad. Marc.
Welcome to our forum. You have the floor. Ваші аплодисменти.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and it's great to see you here today. Very dedicated colleagues, despite the weather. Very important occasion for us to be here today to celebrate the creative industry. So thank you for coming. The global pandemic has influenced the world economy, and in many ways, the creative industries have suffered the greatest economic hardship, with bans on events and a year-and-a-half pause on physically uniting people around music, arts, films, and food. At the same time, the pandemic lockdowns have also allowed us to see some positives. We've all hunkered down to catch up on our favorite dishes or learn to play an instrument. At times, we're united virtually around TV shows and movies. While many just entertain us, some also bring us new perspectives. For me, one such story was the Netflix original series called The Queen's Gambit, which won the Emmy for Outstanding Anthology Series this week. Not only was this series an extremely entertaining fictional account of a young woman's struggle to succeed at the elite level in chess, it also raised issues related to sexism in the sport, the treatment of children in public institutions, and substance abuse. As a result of the series, school chess clubs in the US are overflowing with new members, many of them girls. Of course, Ukraine is no stranger to women grandmasters, with Maria Mozichuk winning World Women's Chess Championship in 2015, just 1 year after the Revolution of Dignity. I understand that she's one of many Ukrainian women challenging male dominance in the game. Our support for Ukrainian creative industries is focused on the same approach, combining entertainment with social content designed to open new horizons and stimulate discussion around important issues. Successful creative industries also create jobs, especially for the youth. Through USAID, we're helping Ukrainian audiovisual production and post-production companies expand into international markets. We're doing this by improving policy reforms to attract more international producers to Ukraine, by developing managerial and technical skills of crews, by helping to acquire specialized equipment and certification, by promoting Ukrainian filming destinations, and by supporting local companies with the potential to increase international sales. We also strive to support Ukrainian creative talent to develop television series, feature films, documentaries, and online shows that highlight the rich diversity and unity of Ukrainian culture and bring people together around issues that they care about. For example, one winner of our social impact content contest, Pitch UA, called I Am Doing Business, highlights many young, aspiring entrepreneurs across Ukraine. In addition to putting a spotlight on dynamic new businesses, the show also encourages young Ukrainians to stay in the country, draw on their creative talents, and start businesses of their own, rather than emigrating somewhere else. The host of the show, Ukrainian singer Volodymyr Dantas, uses a personal approach that connects with the audience. Not only was this series after the first season, many small businesses featured in the show have received support from regular Ukrainians. Their products have become more popular, and they are sharing their success stories with others. USAID is supporting the development of a new season. It will focus on entrepreneurs in the Ukrainian IT and agricultural sectors, which are benefiting from significant achievements in land reform. As the world and Ukraine look to the post-pandemic future, I commend the ministry on organizing this forum. I hope you all have the chance to explore new tools and approaches that continue the sustainable development of the industry, that foster inclusivity and diversity of voices, and that help Ukraine fully realize the potential of digital and other avenues of communication to entertain us, while also making us a little bit better than we were before. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. І особливо дякуємо за те, що згадали нашу шахістку. Ви ж всі знаєте, да? Що в нас
Especially good that you mentioned our chess champion, a lady champion among the girls. No weather is an obstacle to us. The speeches of our keynote speakers are inspiring for us, and we expect online, we shall see on this screen, on the stage the speech of Mehmet Nuri, Minister for Culture and Tourism of the Republic of Turkey. You have the floor now, Mr. Mehmet.
Yes, we are hearing you. Have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. My esteemed counterpart, Shevchenko, dear guests, I would like to say that I am happy to hear with our Ukrainian friends of such an important platform. We, as the Republic of Turkey, attach great importance to our bilateral relations, especially with Ukraine. Our long-lasting friendship with Ukraine has become stronger in the recent years, and the cooperation between the two countries has increased. We attach significance to all studies which will carry our cooperation further, and we are working hard to actualize it as quick as possible. Today, it's quite important to discuss creative economies in the context of cultural policies in this environment, where experts and policymakers working in many different fields come together. We are aware that the New World Order responded from the technology production and creative economy. For this reason, new models have been started to be promoted for economic, social, and cultural development. In this new restructuring, with the rapid development of information and communication technologies, traditional business methods have changed and have led to the development of brand new business areas that have not been imagined until today. The source of this is the creative industries that emerge with the interaction between creativity, culture, economy, and technology. And this has led to the development of the structure which fits the formation of different human resources. In this context, art and creative fields have gained a place in the international market as a potential business line that is open to develop. Thanks to technology, art and culture have been realized from localization and have reached the capacity of being recognized and promoted at a global level, meeting with buyers from all over the world and having a global. The added value created by creative industries and culture industries is significant for world culture and creativity, both at micro and macro level. In fact, thanks to technology, digital art finds buyers and the doors of a brand new creative economy are open for creative industries. Considering all these aspects, I believe that we should consider the creative industries as an area where new ideas can be developed by incorporating. Created by the culture industries in our country between 2000 a real increase of over 100%. For the same period, the employment created by the culture industries in the last 10 years increased by 4.82%. We have determined that among the culture industries, the top sectors that have created the highest employment opportunities in the last decade are software, computer games and database industry, books and printed media, advertising, radio and television, broadcasting. In our country, the contribution of culture industries to gross national product based on added value was measured as approximately 3%. As a result of our research show, the culture industries that enable culture and art to reach a wide audience have left many industries behind due to the digital transformation experienced in the last quarter century. The cyber world, which is the great gift of the postmodern world, has a strategic value in terms of carrying the cultural wealth of nations to a global dimension. In fact, the cyber world has gone far beyond being a platform for nations to share their cultural richness. A brand new integrated cyber culture has been created in which every nation every culture can take part, share its existence, and make its own contributions. In this respect, it is of great importance to develop and support incentive and support mechanisms in ensuring that the culture industries reach the place they deserve on a world scale. Besides, we government officials have another very important role to play. That is the protection of the copyrights of our creative industries in a cyber world where there is vast sharing but no borders. We must act together in these areas. Although the digital world enables the easy sharing of information and easy move of culture industries, it also leads to very rapid copying of ideas. Of course, the inspiration is possible, but to what extent? We will find out the answer to this question. It is up to those who produce in the creative industries, lawmakers and us, government officials, to protect the creative industries in the digital world. Therefore, it's very accurate for this forum to discuss all these issues. For this purpose, as I mentioned in our previous meetings with my dear colleague Tkachenko, our joint work with our Ukrainian friends is important to us. After this forum, I am sure that we will take our very strong bond further and take the first steps of nice and effective projects to be created in the coming period. I would like to thank everyone and wish you an efficient forum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mehmet. Є нам що позичати в Туреччини, я би прямо зараз позичила
We have a lot to borrow from Turkey, for example, the good weather, especially today. So, friends, now we have a very important stage of the presentations. Everybody is looking forward for it. I understand why. This year we have invited to Creative Ukraine to make speeches some unusual guests, school children, Ukrainian finalists of the global stage of the Olympics of Creativity, Destination, Imagination. This is the largest global program for development of creativity initiated in the US. It covers over 30 countries, more than 200,000 participants, 38,000 volunteers from all countries, 1.5 million graduates. Of course, I regret it's too late for me. Destination Imagination prepares students to professional challenges, bringing up a new generation of leaders and innovators. In 2017, the Small Academy of Science is exclusive partner of this program, provides for expertise and administration since 2019 in Ukraine. We have Ukrainian Olympics of Creativity, and the winners, whom we shall see right now, receive the right to participate in the global finals of the Olympics, which take place in the US, and the teams from the worldwide will contest in solving technical, engineering, scientific, improvisational, artistic, and societal challenges. Today on the stage of the Forum Creative Ukraine, there are 3 Ukrainian teams who became finalists of Destination Imagination of the season 2021 on the global level and demonstrated high results on the level of the globe. Dear friends, the purple ones will start. They're ready. I invite to the stage the team of the Center of Creative Technology. Bagri Yelizaveta is a participant. Your applause, please. Dmitro Vasilenko, Iona Danilo, Dinara Ismailova, Stefania Kobilecka, Sofia Perebinis, Yashkir Timur, and as a trainer is Olga Morozova, is the coach of the team. So the team participates in the contest, prize winners of the global contest 2020, 9th place among 178, 13th place in the finals of 2021 in solving scientific challenge. So the presentation by the team Explosion. The team is called Explosion. Your applause. Our idea is explosion. We cannot be stopped. We super creative children. We are the team of Explosion Center of Creative Technology of Dumo Kiev. We participate in all Ukrainian Olympics of Creativity for 4 years since the beginning of the project in Ukraine. In the year 2020, we took the risk and filed an application for participation in the global virtual finals. The brightest memories of the summer to see the word of Ukraine is a list of prize-winning teams. We did not even understand that those are us, our team. First in the history, among the winners, was Ukrainian team, and we are proud of it. This year, again, among the prize winners, there is Ukrainian team, and this is cool. I can tell you about specificity of the contest. As we say, there are 6 team challenges, and the team would choose one: engineering, technical, scientific, artistic, societal, and improvisational. Every challenge has mandatory elements of the topics: creating devices and structures, storytelling, art, as well as teamwork. We need to unite this to create a unique solution for a challenge. Acting challenge, there is instant challenge, which is unexpected for participant. Usually, one has to make a special structure from limited materials for a short time. Last season, our team chose scientific challenge. Its objective was to follow what is happening when the scientific law is broken. Instant challenge required to create the story how science helps to repair what was broken. To make the story interesting, we have studied the features of materials. If it goes into unusual conditions, like atmosphere of Jupiter, we refer to specialists, professors of chemistry, physics and biology. We learned quite many new things. We learned how to make computer animations, special effects for videos, develop simulation model for stabilization of metal, hydrogen in the Jupiter atmosphere, and also we learned better English. Because in the finals we had to work in English. We filmed different types of vehicles over video conference. In every window we had a separate piece of the object, and overall it was a single motion picture. I made a bicycle out of the pillow, umbrella, and a pot. American experts liked it. We shall learn, we shall find out how scientific laws in the space can operate different. Therefore, fiction and presumptions may become reality. Imagination contest makes us viewing usual things from a different perspective. We should never trust anything, and we should always research. Creativity nowadays it should not be only for superheroes, and this should be the quality which can be trained, as I am not against becoming a superhero. Destination imagination, we train the muscles of creativity, we invite new participants to our community. And also influential adults should support this project and develop the Olympics destination imagination in the country. Creativity helps us to pave our own way and makes each of us a superhero. That's cool. Thank you. Thank you, girls and boys. I don't know how you could learn such a long text with no hints. You are great. You are creative. The bicycle out of pillows is really cool. So the next team, technology team of Lico School. On the stage, there is Yegor Basatsky, Kazimir Alexander, with your applause, dear colleagues. Maria Kuchmenko, Konstantin Motovilin, the coach of the team, Kristina Bedri. Where is the trainer? Is that you? There is no trainer. You forgot. You came on your own, even with no coach. There is one. So, friends, what this team did. It won the Ukrainian stage, took part in the global final in 2021, received 18th place out of 39 teams of 14 countries of the world on technical challenge. I believe this is just the beginning. So, friends, you have the floor. Good morning, dear participants of the Forum Create Ukraine. We are a technology team of LICO Technology Lyceum. My name is Yegor, Sasha, Kostya, and Masha. On the slides, you could observe part of our challenge. We took part in such an Olympics for the first time, and immediately we managed to have good results. We are happy to be here and to share what we can. Please look at us. Remember your kids. We and what we do. Maybe you like it or maybe you don't. And we are your only future. Secondly, in addition to the main task, we had so-called instant challenges. And now we would like to demonstrate creativity on the same example. So you have received €5 and your objective is to make more. Within 3 minutes to present your ideas on the forum. What kind of ideas did you have in your head? Please think of it. Maybe you thought that to buy something and then sell it. Or maybe to buy ingredients for a lemonade and sell the finished product. And yet we have our solution. Bisco is the best company to learn how to make money, to create and have one's own business. Bisco starts working as early as today. As you could see, we sold 1 minute for advertising and we kept €5. That's cool. Probably you understand this is not the existing company. It was invented by ourselves. This example demonstrates well that creativity is when you have €5 and regardless of that you achieved your objective. Thank you.
And why would you sell this advertisement at what price? This is a secret, €100. So you had a good profit on this, very creative and economically feasible. Another Mozgo Builders team, small Academy of Science of Dnipro Regional Council. You have come, I understand, for this forum, and you have to greet with the biggest hand imaginable your colleagues, Zakhar Pisarevsky, members of this team, Mikhailo Sivak, Danilo Antonovsky, and the coach Natalia Meroshnik. Beautiful boys, the floor is yours. Greetings to all of you. We have come from Kamensky Technical College, named after Anatoly Lihun. Technical College, sorry for this technical delay. This is a beautiful part of Kamensky. We can find a place for academic scientists, athletes, performers, but our building is a historic monument, and that's why we lack the gym and the conference hall. According to the design and feasibility study, we had several tasks to solve. It was necessary for us to present a structure consisting of the architectural style, well, observing the architectural style and visual arts, ethics and aesthetics. We had to create a story where we would have this layout of the building and present all the talents and all the skills of members of the team. The creativity contest was online, so we presented this 5-minute video. We decided to make it a structure, a sports building with a gym, with a conference hall, with an art hall, and the scientific lab to boot. And we started our work. We worked very fruitfully, even at night. We were creative about the design, about the 3D layout model we created, and worked with construction materials. Also, we needed some editing and filming facilities, and we made the dream come true. This is the model of the gym that can be transformed into an art hall. And on the roof, in the penthouse, we'll have the sports ground and a scientific lab. And we decided that creativity, if you do not apply it, is something that you waste. in yourselves. And people needed some results, some outcomes, some achievement, and we did that for the college, and it is in our plans to implement this. The goal of my scientific project on economics in the Small Academy of Science is creation of the cost estimate for this structure, and it takes up very little space, with very little money, but it is multifunctional and modern as a building. And working on this team, we achieved and gained great experience of togetherness, of teamwork, motivation, working with the new materials, and also we worked on the future skills that we needed for our careers. I always wanted to be a doctor, medical doctor, but now this is a life-changing experience. I decided to get enrolled at Kyiv University, Shevchenko University, and become a startup in marketing with time. And after that, to conclude this project, to invest in it, because our college students are expecting that. Creativity is very infectious, it's very contagious, it's like coronavirus. Even this summer, I made my dream come true, having opened the first in our city a photo studio. And with DI, we gained this valuable experience and had very bright emotions, and we plan to stay creative for the rest of our lives. We are creative. This is exciting and interesting. Thank you very much for your attention. It was cool, boys. I am really astonished. I want this dream really to come true for the sake of all Kamensk. I don't know what you breathe in that town of yours. It's a good question. So I'd like to add some artificial lands to this set. For cleansing of the ear, I visited Kamensk 3 times this year, and I can appreciate this. This is the air filters. So you have the economy of scale. I understand that this is a big project, but this is incredible, and I want your dream to really come true. You understand, you cheeky capital girls, how the boys fare in Kamensk. We need a family picture of all 3 teams. All 3 teams, all 3 creative youth projects from Ukraine. Let's have a family picture together. So I can see the explosion, the technology team, and the brain builders. The future of Ukraine. Youth is the future of Ukraine. That's the caption. I will show you a video to my girl. They don't have the gym, just like you. You are the only lucky ones, I suppose. Well, on the legs and the arms, good weather. Anybody can do it in good weather, but bad weather cannot stop us, I suppose. Thank you very much, dear friends. The best of luck to you. I'm sorry I never had such competitions in my childhood, in my adolescence. You are the lucky ones, then. Thank you for your participation and contributions. So, for all the people
найкращі люди цієї країни, і к ним примкнувши, типу мене. Я вітаю вас з цим теплим переїздом.
I would like to, for the second day in a row we haven't created Ukraine, we will start in 2 minutes.
Ага, виключається. Бачиш, щоб це включився, то треба це.
interactive panel discussion that is called Communication Around Positive Changes in Ukraine. And I would like to invite participants of this discussion, Taras Shevchenko, Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy, and my children's godfather, Lesia Nikituk, and host, the producer, and even more. USAID creative director of the agency of Green Penguin. That's the name of the agency, and it will be moderated by Vira Kostenko-Kuznetsova, USAID Program for Transformation Communication. I hope that you're all equipped with the mics. Should I surrender my microphone, I wonder? Yes, I have to. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're happy to be here. We're very grateful to the sponsors for this opportunity to be together in this beautiful room, not in the penthouse. I'm on the Kostenko-Kuznetsova. I'm not comfortable with this gooseneck. And we are funded by the USAID. Our project has been more than 1 year old. We're for the second time here. We discussed the socially relevant content last year, and now we would like to discuss creativity and how we can communicate, not just for the sake of reforms. Reforms constitute a very difficult word. For the majority of Ukrainians, difficult to understand and to accept. And this is the opportunity to discuss the change management and some values that can unite us probably, and most importantly how essential it is to be creative in our communications, and we can see that from different angles. We have exciting speakers. Good morning, Taras Shevchenko, Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy, will be helping us with the creative and aspects overlooked by the governmental bodies. Lesia Nikituk, an actress, an anchor, and author of the project called Le Marshrutka, seeing Ukraine through her eyes, and Kurova, who is a long-standing friend of USAID, of our project. Green Penguin agency is very much involved in communication reform in Ukraine, and I'm sure that they will present their creative solutions for communication. So thanks to everyone. Let's start. With a question to you. The principal governmental bodies all come to your ministry, not just for the reform, but for the management of change and the uniting process around developments in Ukraine. Just how do you manage? How can you do that? How do you unite the creative agencies? How you do that, and which successful project can you boast of? Thank you, Vira. We are still working and still have a lot ahead of us. I hope this works. It does. Thank you. And I have a couple of slides. I would like to thank Transformation Action, our reliable partner. We've been together for a long time. You have a great name. I love reform. I love change, but I love also transformation. Reform is when we reform something, but transformation is supposed to be preferred. And we are working on that, the government in different spheres and communication. It's necessary at every stage. Lawyers are usually boring. Before going to the US for studies, I wouldn't understand any emotional component. I was of an analytical heart, so to speak, and emotion is best. right supreme, and then the reason can employ some arguments in favor, some evidence. I have a couple of slides, a couple of videos. And why should I use the clicker? It doesn't work. Somebody should assist us there. Well, we had several interesting campaigns we wanted to share with you. Some of them you've seen, I am sure. We can use the computer for that. I think it's that simple. And we discussed the key events for that last year, and the first one at the beginning, right after Christmas, was the 150th anniversary of Lesia Ukrainians. The model used by the ministry envisions specifically artistic competitions and selection of the creative agency to develop the identification features or identity features. Speaking of our mission as a ministry, this is unification of Ukrainians around joint symbols and shared historic events. One of the events this year is the 30th anniversary of the restored Ukraine's independence. That was the message, I believe, for the first time this year. And I think that the celebration was a success in its own right. Learning for Ukrainians and studies in history and culture. We are responsible for culture and history, plus the Institute of National Memory or Heritage doing a lot. This is also sustainability, and this is also resilience for a state to deter the aggression and the aggressor, for that matter. The symbols, I hope you've seen them. The graphic portrait of Lesia Ukrainkas, Postman presented it. It was commissioned by our ministry, and the concept 150 names for Lesia. For that celebration in February, celebrated the 150th anniversary of Lesia Ukrainkas, and accordingly, we had such examples of advertisement and identity posters. You've seen on the internet such images liked on Facebook, I suppose. This is one of the great examples when it is initiated by a state body, a governmental body, and we have an all-Ukrainian campaign, increasing this feeling of togetherness, of unity, shared history, and something in common. When we feel something in common, it can be culture, it can be sports, our victories there, it can put the nation together. On the Constitution Day, our next step, we had this year a lot of anniversaries, the commemoration of Chernobyl tragedy, and the 25th anniversary this year also on the adoption of the Constitution of Ukraine. Our people are not well versed in the Constitution and know too little about their rights, unfortunately. This is the video produced, commissioned rather, by the ministry. It was supposed to have some voiceover. Not anymore. I can see that now. They're talking about their rights. It's all rhymed, by the way. It's all some kind of rap, and you can find it on the internet. Should we switch on the sound? So, happy 25th anniversary of our Constitution. That's the conclusion. I suppose there's another video. I hope that it has the sound. It should. And let's proceed along the same lines. Our next slide the 30th anniversary of our independence, and again the ministry was working in advance to develop the logo, the identity logo, and for Provid agency, the Provid agency created this flowerish image. And now the video. It has this ideas more blossom, more flowers out of this. Well, thank you very much. And that was the flower to symbolize the diversity and history and culture of different regions of Ukraine, different countries of Ukraine. For every region, they develop it's a special graphic design, but of course we paid most attention to the general logo. Back in May, it didn't immediately pick up and become viral. The ministry announced quite smartly that it was free to use and anyone could use it as an open source for commercial and non-commercial goals. You can attach it to your products. That's commercial in our book, but somehow the manufacturers of alcoholic beverages did not approach us, but they could have because there's no permit that we can issue. But there are many products, many articles closer to the day of independence, the Independence Day, with the above-the-line advertisements and plus the broadcasts, which were much appreciated thanks to the partners during the celebration events and celebration activities with the logo attached. That was the uniting line, which actually made this connection with the 30th anniversary. I don't remember any logos of independence or celebration for celebration of the 10th or 20th anniversary. That was the difference we made this year, the difference against the precedents and adaptations coming from different regions, some of them more successful, some of them less, and used in different ways. You can see the embroidered shirts with the flower and many other things. Then again, the new project, Filter and Media Literacy, the identity feature that we developed as an image, a logo, and this small filter, little filter solutions for people was our contractor, and those were the most important projects this year and will be next year again. And in closing, I would like to say that after the Filter on Lesia Ukrainka Constitution and Independence Day, we are getting ready for next year. And next year, we hope that one of the key issues, key events will be the 300 years of Grigory Skovoroda, the Ukrainian philosopher. We will celebrate that next December, and for the whole year, I'm sure the ministry have already announced, and they're accepting submissions from creative agencies for the identity feature, identity logo for Skovoroda. So with the experience, we can really stand on the shoulders of good things to unite Ukrainians around our joint, common, shared values and the figures of our celebrities. Thank you very much. Thank you, Taras. It's a great thing that we have such features of togetherness, such initiatives. And such branding is unprecedented. I would like to agree with this statement. But also we have some people uniting Ukrainians and putting Ukraine together. Lesia, to me, you are the person that I met looking for the projects to unite Ukrainians, to make a show, to see ourselves, to see people who we care for, the special ones also. We had that great story when our program manager, then working for strengthening of public trust, called you PR manager to say that yes, we are on the look for such projects. And you said, yes, we have it ready. He was there since 2015, ready for use. I had it on the palm of my hand on that napkin, and we would go around, cap in our hand, please, please help us with the project. I traveled all the world, but never Ukraine. I wanted to. It's Khmelnytsky, Kiev, and just to my parents' home and back to the capital. So I'm very thankful for the call that I received from you. That was a destiny call. A destined call, perhaps. We know what we are talking about. Perhaps not all of you have seen Le Marshrutka project. Who has seen Le Marshrutka? I wonder. 3 people. I don't believe it. I'm not prepared to accept it. Again, who for real saw the travel show with Lesia Nikituk? 16 people. That's better. That's much better. Well, the ratings were much better than that, but let's remind ourselves that we have a short video to share with you.
Я вирішила трохи подорожувати Україною, бо я ж з 7-го коліна українка. Добрий день! Ви що, болгари? Так! Що ви українські болгари?
Питання, хто ми є, як українці, як громадяни, хто ми є, як люди.
Це хороший вопрос.
Пане гонщик.
Намагаєшся щось зробити, відчути зв'язок з культурою. Зрозуміти, як взагалі функціонує та країна, в якій ти живеш.
Це єдиний у світі музей космосу в церкві.
Это была мечта моей жизни, которая воплотилась.
Вы их увидели, это они повороты.
У нас дуже гарна земля. А чому хочеться плакати?
Очищається душа.
Командир, ми зараз всю рибу розлякаємо. А ні, тут риби досить, всім вистачить.
Ну чим присолить? Не спиняйтесь.
Ормайок там називається. Виріжете потім.
І приправа якась, так?
Приправа. Базилік.
Як тут взагалі люди живуть на острові? Як в раю.
Здесь мы выращиваем соль.
Віра, куди пливе наша сталь?
Італія, Німеччина, Бельгія.
Це який курс?
Второй.
Грот подняли, сейчас приготовимся стаксель поднимать.
Кого? В кокпіті сижу, тримаю грота шкоти. Кажуть, що красивих дівчат катають на яхтах по морям. А
дуже красивых.
А дуже красивих на лімузинах по Дніпру.
Ями на дорогах, ями і розведені мости. Де тепер тебе знайти? Де тепер тебе знайти? Ми з тобою наші ями залатаємо словами. Буде так, як хочеш ти. Так, як хочеш ти.
Самий великий телескоп в Україні.
Він просто як якась космічна ракета. О, бачу чорну діру!
Ями на дорогах, ями.
Заберіть дітей від екранів.
Разов 70 в день они этим занимаются.
Україна! Ями на дорогах, ями.
Thank you. By the way, on the field, there was a logo. It's graphics. It's graphics. We did not paint on the field because we protect nature and we protect Ukraine and we develop Ukraine. I would like to say to what extent. In 2 seasons of La Marshutka, we had 2 seasons, 16 provinces. The extent to which we learned about our country, the extent to which we developed domestic tourism, and it still continues to develop. I will not be afraid to say with this project, because we went on air when we had coronavirus. I hope it will finish soon. Everybody was at home watching TV, and nobody could travel abroad. After each program, people traveled those places we have described, and this is good. I would like to thank everybody. Now, more details. The show, La Marshutka show, visited 16 oblasts. It was incredible. I remember very warmly. No Bagama, no Tahiti, no Solomon Islands is remembered the way Chernigiv and Khmelnytsky provinces. In Solomonov Island, the crocodile did not eat me. Thanks God, there are no crocodiles in the country. In Chernigiv Oblast, there are swamps, wetlands, terrible wetlands. You can order the excursion and travel the itinerary with an expert of the swamps, of the wetlands. And yet you can think in a swamp. This is really what you think about. After talking to the magician in Carpathian Mountains, in the people's Boyko people, I can read thoughts of people. After I talked to the magician, in those locations, I was impressed by people, because in Ukraine, as you may know, people are incredible. The way they met us, the way they spoke of their cuisine, the way they have demonstrated their cuisine. Also, they remember and they protect their monuments and culture. All those people indeed aspire, especially in some places of interest, interesting locations to be visited by tourists, that they can rebuild in some places the infrastructure, because this is important, that we can travel to the particular location, a good location, that we can travel there. Because on our vehicle, on our van, we could hardly drive. Our van lost its brakes. I telephoned the mayor of Konotop, and he was having his dinner, and he said, well, I finished my dinner, and I will repair your vehicle right now, your van. Overnight, they have repaired the van, installed the new brakes. I cannot discuss technically, and yet I am like a mechanic after that show. I know what is the brake hose in detail about those places I would like to visit, yet it is hard. A tram in Carpathians, a desert in Kherson, tasty seashells from the sea in Mykolaiv, luxury salty lake where young people are using kite surfing, no infrastructure, and people themselves who have their own business, and they also grow oysters on the salty lake because it's more salty compared to the ocean, and the oysters feel good. They are tasty. On their own, they made a small restaurant. They have bio toilets, and people are visiting. It's really good. I don't really understand the politics. Maybe this is a reform or some kind of law. If we could make it, like in some countries of Europe, to reduce taxes or give some tax holidays for such people who develop a business of their own, they themselves would make infrastructure in a particular place. In the same way, the government will benefit from domestic tourism, and people will have access of tourism to their places. Everybody will benefit from it. Everyone. Also, small business is private entrepreneurs. Private entrepreneurs pay very little taxes. I pay quite a lot of taxes. Was it loud? I pay so much taxes. The pension tax, that's a lot. And what about 1 year? Over 12,000, that's what you pay. My mother is getting the pension, the same 12,000 per year. Really, she is getting 3,000. We are about unity. We are about unity. This is a discussion, isn't it? It's a discussion. Shall we debate? So, my point is that people in our country do a lot on their own. They do their best. They thrive. In our Marshrutka program, we did not want to demonstrate any trash. When you hear the news, this is bad, that is bad, and that was ruined, that was destroyed. We were trying to demonstrate in that program a lot of positive things to make it cheerful, that people who watch our program to be motivated, to be charged, really to help each other, and also to visit places, and also to benefit, to create the benefits, to convey to the public that one must protect, because we have very few places like that. So this is a karma good project. Why? After we have, there is some sound. No sound. No sound, no sound. As soon as we have demonstrated, it was closed. And as soon as it was open for visiting, and the tourists just went there. Went by trains, cars, vehicles. They went to that lighthouse, the Vybukh lighthouse. As soon as we complied about the roads, the Ministry for Infrastructure has responded, and they we need that season of La Marshrutka to check it once again. This is what I say. Also on Tustay, Lviv Oblast, we had the plot, because indeed we are visited by tourists, by foreigners, and we had to find them. Just by chance, on the highway, we found Americans. Those Americans came to our country to watch Tustay, and also then there was Corona, and they have had to stay for 3 months. We took them with us on our van. I took them to Boykos. You know, Boyko is a Ukrainian ethnicity. People live in the village for 30 years. It was not paved in asphalt. We drove there. They have wonderful cuisine. They live on the mountain, wonderful nature. And we met Molfar, who is a magician, a lady magician. This is not for discussion, I can tell you personally. If you get married, you know, this is all important, to talk to the magician. I can give you the phone number. Also, when we visited Boykos, we and Americans liked it. When we tasted Ukrainian delicacies. With La Marshrutka, we made boxes of Ukrainian delicacies. We named that very delicious. And now we are telling of it on Instagram, other social networks, and they were sold very well. This included pork from hairy pig, also Ukrainian sausage, black one, cooked in Khmelnytsky, honey from watermelon. Indeed, quite many people never tasted before, including myself. In the same way, we made people acquainted with those delicacies. It's very important what happened next. Next, also small local producers, those delights, supermarkets now order from them. In Kiev, Khmelnytsky Oblast, Poltava Oblast, Poltava province, everywhere. In those places, those foods are ordered from them. They telephoned us every day. They were grateful that we told about those people, about those delights. And with that, really, they can survive now. People began to make money. And they now develop their own business. And of course, this is a plus for our karma. This will improve our karma significantly. I can read. I have a busy schedule, like in the ministry. You know, we are busy people. So in 2000s, people liked this Marshrutka on my social networks. People ask from me, if there is the third season, if you keep traveling, I keep this a secret. I keep my fingers crossed, because indeed I would like to travel. Vinnytsia, Donetsk, Sumy, Rivne, Zaporizhzhia. And I believe that such a project, good for karma, must have a third season. Therefore, I would like to thank for your attention. I hope that I have conveyed the main things. Everything begins from us. It starts from people. And who else can take care and support each other, if not us, and make positive changes, and make certain transformation for our native country. Lesia Nikituk, my signature is the same as famous Ukrainian poet, Lesia Ukrainka. And my name is also Lesia. I hear the word the change maker. The change maker. Probably this is a new word. It existed before, at least for myself. It becomes important. I believe that you are the bright example of such a change maker through your own experience, in your own way. You learn about people and you do things good for karma. I would like to thank you for that. Dear friends, it was very difficult. If you take social networks, and the social networks is a very big site for promotion of everything, of a particular business or a product, and in the same manner of good locations and good places, and also Ukraine, right? Because you take pictures in some point, and immediately people ask where it is, and in the same way you sell that place, you market that place to attract new visitors. It was very difficult in the social networks to me as a person that followers are used to pictures in Africa or in China or Norway. And here one has to make a picture in Kherson. And you are on the Watermelon Festival. And I say, guys, I have to make a good photo to make it wow, to make people interested. Specificity of Instagram, people love with their eyes. It's important to make a picture that will make people interested. And the guy comes to me and he says, well, my name is Basil, and I have 3 tons of watermelons just from plantation. Please climb that truck and have your picture taken. So myself and 1 million of watermelons. That picture had 100,000 likes. Everybody was interested. What kind of festival is that? What kind of watermelon honey? And we have promoted. This is step by step. We started with social networks. Social networks is indeed important. Communications, and of course one has to be concentrated. Let us move to other channels of communications. Yulia Kurova is with us, and this is Green Penguin Agency. Actually, we have worked for a while together. Yulia is here. I would like her to demonstrate how from the perspective of the agency, which has an objective. And of course, they have the objectives. We have the land reform. We must communicate this. We should do it nicely for everyone to understand. Everybody liked it, and everybody would change their attitude towards the land reform. How does it happen inside? How do you find the insights to tell the stories in such a way as you do it? Thank you, Vira. I would like to thank Lesia and Taras to change their seats, to watch those videos of the company, if you can turn around, if you're not against it. So we shall take the chair. As I have quite many videos in my presentation, I request the guys that also we can have a good sound. Most probably you saw those companies, maybe not all of them. Vira has requested me to focus on how those campaigns are made. Maybe you can look from a different perspective on the usual advertisement. So in the Green Penguin, Ukrainian Independent Creating Agency, we are in the top 10 of the best agencies of the country. We specialize. This happened that for the last years we became the voice of the change-making companies in the country. How do we work with that? As all the companies we're working for have a psychology, they are comprehensive, they are the national level, national scale, they are social, they are watched by the country. There are quite many serious issues, serious matters. Therefore, our biggest challenge is to transform all that important, comprehensive information into very basic message that will be obvious for the target audience. This is most difficult in our work. Therefore, we must keep to this equation. When we have a complex topic like vaccination or land reform, we have skeptical audiences. Not only skeptical, they are negative. Sometimes audiences are negative. With all that, we must make a nice, entertaining message, which also will be heard by the target audience. To make it heard, we must find an insight. We cannot just come with a message. That message must speak of something that will touch the hearts and brains of people. So people will hear it, people will respond to it. It can influence them. In the best case, of course, they can follow. They can even change their opinion. In the best case, finding such an insight, finding such a message is not easy. It's never easy. That process takes 3 to 4 weeks at least. Indeed, this is a hard work to find the right answer. Always all the ideas are checked by such a formula. For example, there can be quite many ideas. So the objective is to communicate the land reform. I will show that case. And there can be many ideas. None of the ideas can be weak or occasional, because this is not just creative and good ideas. This is mathematical formula. So it looks an idea. Actually, it is not. Actually, it must solve all the issues vested into our foundation. We check every idea so that it works on every objective and answers all questions, because this is one side. The idea must be good, viable, and strong. The other side is that we always cooperate with such organizations, international organizations like UNICEF, USAID, always several departments of the ministry, or even several ministries. We work with MOH, Ministry for Culture, Foreign Ministry, Digitalization Ministry, quite many of them. In that process, we involve also the expert community, and after all those reconciliations, the weak idea will not survive. After that, we also go for the focus group. On the focus group, people just say, well, I like it, I don't like it, and that's it. Therefore, before we come with idea to our counterparts, all the participants of the process, the stakeholders, we must be sure the equation has the right solution. There are no excuses, because nothing can move that idea. Like laying down the bricks, there are no issues there is no return. All the ideas that you can see are well tuned. This is a well-designed mathematical solution. Now about the case vaccination. We had the assignment from the MOH, USAID, UNICEF communicate vaccination on diphtheria, measles, and tetanus. Everybody forgot that there are other diseases, and of course vaccination is a good vaccination indicator has declined. We remembered that children are in their own world. There are superheroes, they have adventures, they always win, they have super features. I mean children. And in the real life, superpower from the enemy, from the diseases, viruses, and bacteria is given by the parents when they vaccinate them. And we came with the idea that the immunity is superpower, vaccination is superpower from disease. And we made invisible attributes of superheroes, kids that play, and those can be imagined. Shall we see the video?
Ти можеш не бачити всіх чудовиськ,
Maybe you don't see those monsters. This is what I suspected. Shall we make it good? It was really good. There is a lot of animation.
Ти можеш не бачити всіх чудовиськ, яких вони перемагають. Не здогадуватись, які вершини вони підкорюють. Не знати, які випробування їм доводиться пройти, чи які небезпеки подолати. Звідки у них такі потужні здібності? Але ти знаєш напевно, що саме ти забезпечуєш їхній захист під час пригод. Пандемія не скасовує кір, дифтерію, коклюш та інші хвороби. Заплануйте вакцинацію разом із вашим лікарем. Дамо нашим дітям суперсилу від хвороб.
And pertussis. Very good. That campaign just started. Maybe you could see the visuals in the subway, and the videos have just started. We expect the same for the adults. Using this opportunity, there is life hack. Actually, adults need the vaccination every 10 years. If you didn't do it, count 10 years, and the next campaign will be about it. The land reform. Saying it's a difficult topic is to say nothing. You know how much disinformation and how many fears and stereotypes. That topic is not understandable. It's a big gap, and this is terrible. Of course, our objective is to communicate easily, that everybody makes it clear that land reform is good. And by the way, there is an XLS with all the economic terms, economic estimates. We must explain why it's good, all the positive changes. It took us some time, and we understood who can be associated with land more than our grandmother. So we have visited the grandmother in the village to dig the orchard, to dig the earth. So the land is about the grandmother. Most of the owners actually are old ladies. So the portrait of the landowner is a Ukrainian grandmother. So who can tell people of the land reform that they can at least would listen, secondly trust, and thirdly in simple human language to explain, like your grandmother would tell you. And we found
Земельна реформа чекала, що зніму той мораторій більше, ніж надбавку до пенсії. Як наш? Захоче, онуку подарю, а не буде бабі помагати. В оренду здам, бо ціна на пай зразу стане вищою і буде постійно рости. Як ти, Васечка, але ж ти тільки до Різдва. Захочу, поями з Микитівною поміняюсь. І тепер все по документу.
So the grandmother now understands it. So now the grandmother is the landowner. We created the slogan, not a grandmother, the landlord. So the grandmother is the landlord. She became the landlord, and she owns the land. She says something, and we speaks of benefits. I can give it to my grandkid, or I can let it out to the tenant. And she speaks of positive changes of the land reform. Thanks God, now the unattended state-owned land is transferred to communities. I have actually bought a new tractor. I pledged my land as a collateral to the bank, and now I have a new tractor. I am not a grandmother, I am the landlady. So, interesting, unexpected thing. The focus groups have shown that the videos are understandable, people like it, and when we are dubbing grandmother on the visuals, she causes questions, because there is association with social advertising, with the social advertising, and we were requested to think more. And we thought more. We thought, who can be the speaker of the village if not the grandmother? Of course, the animals, domestic animals who live there, agriculture. So we create some kind of word of mouth when animals tell each other of the piece of news. You know, the land can be leased and the money can be earned to rebuild the village, or the farmer has bought the new tractor as he pledged his land. Obvious changes for the better, and we try to explain those benefits. The Ministry for Culture, of course, such an assignment is interesting every time. For example, to make a branding of the Ministry for Culture, to brand the entire cultural segment of the country. This assignment is inspiring, also responsible, and actually that responsibility makes pressure, because immediately you think how to make everyone happy, to tell about everything. And of course, we have worked a lot on this project. And we have worked on every segment of Ukrainian culture. All kinds of old scripts, all the authors, including Narbut and the Cossacks, and the Kiev and Rus scripts. And we have selected several brands. Of course, it's not good, because it's difficult to choose. Quite many people take a decision. The Ministry for Culture had to take the final decision, and they had a big responsibility as well. We decided to present all the 11 brands. When we presented them, I spoke of the formula. There must be that solution must sustain all the objections. So, on our experience, we saw that when the brick is not formed, when something is yet under formed, then there are ideas. People say, shall we combine 5 and 3? Shall we add some new color? And when we sent 11 concepts, there was silence. We understood that this is not very good. When there is a long silence, maybe there are issues. Then, when the Ministry for Culture, we began to communicate and think how to make it, that the concept is ideal, the way we want it. We decided the willful decision not to make it, just to keep working, just to look for more. We understood we did not find a solution to make everyone happy, and we kept working and made another 3 concepts. When we made one of them, we understood that's it. You can always feel when you find the right solution of the equation. We say it is there, and we send it to the Ministry of Culture. They have responded instantly. They were happy. We understood that we found the right thing, and we found that branding, and we made it. Everybody liked it unanimously, and it satisfied all the assignments.
And met all the requirements. Now, I can feel the changes or detect the changes. That's our next campaign for Dia Platform and Yamalatko. So we can launch it from here.
У світі, де кожен день розрахований по хвилинах, кроках, і все стрімко змінюється.
Юра, китайці перенесли зустріч на годину раніше.
Так, добре, давай. Важливо, щоб кожна дія була ефективною.
Зараз хвилинку, почекай.
Доброго дня.
Доброго дня.
Ваші документи, будь ласка.
Та допомагала рухатись по життю. Як добре, що електронні права та техпаспорт тепер у мобільному додатку діє. Я відчуваю зміни.
I feel the changes.
Ранок кожної мами – це неабиякий марафон. Подбати про себе, подбати про домашніх, підключити до зборів чоловіка, всюди встигнути.
Ваші документи, будь ласка.
І нічого не забути. Забула.
Можливо, у вас завантажена дія?
Так, звісно. Люба. Як добре, що електронні права та техпаспорт тепер у мобільному додатку Дія. Я відчуваю зміни. Час летить, а я так само люблю свята. Ой, що я наклоцала? Люблю, коли ми їдемо разом, а разом вже майже 40 років. Ой.
Ваші документи, будь ласка.
А я ж твої документи на серванті забула.
Смартфоном користуєтесь, а дію не поставили.
Син поставив. Подивіться, будь ласка. Як добре, що електронні
It's great to have it
у
on
мобільному додатку Дія. Я відчуваю зміни.
I can feel the change. And the next one, quite another one. Can we watch it? It's called E-малятко, E-baby in English.
У нас +1!
І з того часу я все думала, який ти, на кого будеш більш схожий, яке ім'я для тебе обрати. І от час зустрічі настав. Ми дуже раді тебе бачити, і ми подбаємо про тебе. Як добре, що на порталі Дія можна заповнити всього одну онлайн-заявку для реєстрації малюка, просто в пологовому будинку. Я відчуваю зміни.
I feel the change.
3, 2, у нас буде дитина!
We are going to have a baby.
Отак ми з дідом і дізналися про те, що ти у нас будеш.
Дівчинка!
А потім про те, що ти дівчинка. І от одного дня почалося. Ох, народили. А тепер вже зареєструвати треба.
Мами вже все зареєстрували.
Як добре, що на порталі Дія можна заповнити всього одну онлайн-заяву для реєстрації малюка. Я відчуваю зміни.
I can feel the change.
Відколи я побачив ті дві смужки, мене хвилювало тільки одне питання.
Пацан! У нас буде! Пацан!
Своєю появою ти наробив шуму. А потім ми зустрілися. Як добре, що на порталі Дія можна заповнити всього одну онлайн-заяву для реєстрації малюка.
Wonderful app.
Я відчуваю зміни.
I can feel the change. Well, you can feel the change. I suppose you understand, you appreciate, I love those videos. And I'm biased. I can see the series of videos. And the last case I'm going to demonstrate, it was a promotion video for Ukraine, but for youth, for the Instagram audience, and they do not accept any kind of archetypes like the Carpathian mantis and embroidered shirt. They wouldn't appreciate. So let's demonstrate Ukraine the way we see it today. We presently, every day in the streets, we understand that Ukraine is part of the post-Soviet space, but what makes us different from the rest of the country? This is freedom. Freedom. Ukraine is a territory of limitless freedom. Our youth is inimitable, incredible. They remember the remnants of the Soviet times, and they come out of the underground station with the Soviet interior and meet grandma selling some pickled vegetables to them, or offering at least. And then they go to a state-of-the-art cafe. Sometimes we are ahead of time even. So we decided to demonstrate the youth of the way it is, young and beautiful, daring and beautiful. Young Ukraine for you. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have some frames, and then the
Це Україна. І це її покоління свободи. Покоління красивих, сміливих, відважних. Покоління бунтарних і нелегковажних. Покоління, що бачить красу в усьому. На стіні, в перехожих чи в метро по дорозі додому. Покоління, що відчуває смак свободи. Інспірований злаймом з вас. Покоління, чиї серця вистукують біт під джаз, реп, техно чи сольні тренди. Воно досі гоїть рани. Але погляд у майбутнє. Воно знає смак перемог. І він не забуде.
Remembering the losses, but celebrating the victories. A territorial freedom.
І міняється щохвилини. Одних це дратує, інших зміцнює крила. Воно відкриває серце і дає унікальну нагоду. Вже сьогодні, вже зараз відчути нестримний вітер свободи.
So, thank you very much for your attention. If you are interested in positive changes and the way we communicate them, we can look up more case studies at our site, the Healthy Ukraine initiative, the Crimean platform, our recent development. I'd like to tell you that we have a lot of positive changes developing and unfolding in Ukraine. We have just to take notice, to take heed, and we are very happy to discuss them because these are good. This is good news. Indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's in order. So I would like to bring you back to the stage, or improvised stage, and for our last question for this panel, of course. And tell us, please, how can we be inspired to keep trying to ruin the wall that stands between us and the future, and to make the change truly creative. We have to learn from the boycott people. We just have to do it, just do it. That's my motto. It's all about people. People are changes people. I would agree with everyone because we never lost it. We just give us a clue, give us a cue, give us a pretext, and we are ready to oblige. Thank you very much for your contributions, for your creativity, and see you at our next forum. Who knows what the future has in store for us? I would like to say one last thing, but we could have that one round above the Carpathian Mountains and the pickled tomatoes. We are not just the territory of freedom, we are also a territory of wonderful street food, the Ukrainian cuisine. Lesia promised it for the third season. Thanks for the videos, and now I know that it's not just about a passport. There are other documents that you can present. So a big hand, ladies and gentlemen, to our panelists as a sign of deep appreciation. And we are energized, we are inspired, we are pregnant with new ideas. I would like to support some changes. Let me just think about it. A coffee break. Let's digest a little bit in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes exactly, we'll come back here and we'll have another panel. I will announce it. Let it stay a surprise for another 10 minutes.
принципі, погода хороша. Друзі, підтягуємося, будь ласка. Ми розпочинаємо наступну панель. Я сподіваюся, що вона буде не менш цікава, ніж була попередня. Попередні ми говорили про позитивні зміни, зараз будемо говорити про аналітику креативних індустрій. Друзі, підтягуємось, можна навіть з кавою, я думаю, організатори вас не покарають за це. На цій панелі ми спробуємо дізнатися про майбутній і про актуальний стан, корисну проекцію стратегічного планування, про складання бюджетів, звітність, які необхідні також і культурному середовищу. Дуже часто, коли в команді культурних проєктів з'являються вмотивовані менеджери з хорошими бізнес-знаннями, які мають прописану стратегію, розуміють свою аудиторію, створюється дуже якісна інтеграція з навколишнім світом. Більше про це на цій сцені ми будемо говорити з учасниками цієї панелі і не просто запрошуємо, а вже...
Co-founder of the Center of Economic Renovation of Ukraine. Your applause. Doctor of Economy Professor. So many titles. Head of the Department of Innovation Policy, Economics, Organization of High Tech of the Institute of Economics. Is this about you? Such a young person and so many titles. That's about you, right? What kind of, so you start with a doctor. Can you be a doctor? You cannot. I missed a lot. So I apologize, I follow scenario because predictions had as a research to develop main directions of smart specializations of the city of Kiev. Everything is in one line. I apologize for that. Is it all about you? So your applause, please. Andrei Onoprienko, head of the Center of Analytics for Foreign Trade, Kyiv School of Economics. A very brief introduction. Evgenia Bliznyuk, Master of Sociology, founder and director of Gradus Research Agency. Anastasia Bobrova, the analyst, leader of CEDOS projects. That's you. It's my pleasure. Lisa Moroz, government expert of the expert group for creative industries of the Ministry for Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine. And moderated Natalia Mikovska, strategic advisor to the Ministry for Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine.
Дуже серйозно, сподіваюся.
It's all so serious the way it sounds. And we'll have a serious discussion. Good afternoon. I'd like to greet everyone. We are going to discuss light things in a serious way because we're here to discuss the importance of data for policy making and policy making specifically in creative industries, because people working for business fully realize that no business solution can be taken without data analysis. Big data, small data, it all depends on the priority for your business, but there's always some data. And the same approach we would like to apply in policy making. When we say policy, people think about politics usually, and there's too much politics in their opinion, but our understanding that policy making is about governmental solutions converted into statutes, strategies, or statements coming from those people who are decision makers in our state. So briefly speaking, we're going to discuss policy based on data. Why is this important for creative industry? What kind of data and how it is converted into policy or policies? What data we need for policies, and where's the minimum without which we cannot form any kind of stately governmental decision or solution. And data analysis, sectoral and otherwise, because we understand the very well that every creative industry has its peculiarities and should employ its specific approaches. We cannot use all the data that we employ for analysis and policy making. Information technology sector, we cannot transpose that for fashion and design because they are all specific and every sector is to its own methodology, the latest trends and instruments used in the world, because it's extremely important for us to use state-of-the-art, the best practices and the best available, and we have great analysts who analyze that. And my favorite part is this spillover effect evaluation for creative industries. This is the accumulative effect or effect of indirect influence of creative industries on the economy of Ukraine, because when we discuss creative industries it is impossible to just evaluate the influence on economy or GDP through the scope of sales for goods or services or export alone, without inclusion of certain indicators and some kind of simulation. We had that with the colleagues, some confusion. I am Natalia Mikolska. I'm a visionary expert in strategic transformations. For a long time I've been involved with creative industries, and that includes policy making and policies in this realm, at this level. I'm a strategic advisor to Minister Alexander Tkachenko on development of creative industries. Now we have Louise Moroz on the same panel. What is important about her is that for a long time she's been around in data management and transformation management of data, converting them into policies. She's one of the co-founders of the research commissioned by the ministry and the Kyiv School of Economics and Creative Industries in our state. And then again, we have Andriy Onoprienko. Andriy is a person to design and sponsor this study. He's not just an analyst and policy expert, but he has some business background, and he will be instrumental in helping us imagine this as a business-like effort, proceed as an independent policy analysis and a think tank. And 21, they are working on working conditions for cultural activists, lady activists. This is another potential spillover effect or the data that we should take into account. This is, roughly speaking, this is the workforce. I don't like the expression, but I like it, talents. Now they call it talents instead of workforce for creative industries. And Evgenia Bliznuk, let me just say that she's founder and manager of the innovative projects, Data on Your Smartphone. Because when we make policies in creative industries and you have a request from somebody to press some buttons, you do that. If it is gratis requesting it, because all your answers are subsequently converted into policy making. Andriy, I have already discussed that. He has a PhD degree, quantum group. He's a futurologist, a future scientist, and his dress code is that of the future. I suppose for indoors anyway, not outdoors, and he's one of the co-authors of the Economic Strategy 2030, a founder of a very important business community, 700 investors. So Andriy will present their outlook, their view for data policy and business data, governmental versus governmental data. And Egorov, a corresponding member of the National Academy of Science, PhD in economics professor. He is a head of department for high tech, member of the scientific committee of Ukraine 2017-2021. And what is also important is that among his latest works, or their latest works, the organization that represents here was focused on smart specialization. This is a new methodology, one of the leading used in the EU, and they also made a program for prospects of key development, one of the vectors for development of creative industries. So we are going to have this discussion, conversation, not just theoretically. We are not going to bury you in any kind of data. All the research conducted by our colleagues and their think tanks, you can look up at their pages. We're going to discuss rather the reason why this is important, and especially for you people approaching the government for some support, for some policy making, some lobbyism, creation of certain individual programs, and why the state should provide the data for you and make it easier for you to make your decisions. And let me start with Lesia, because it is very important for us to understand and appreciate what kind of approach is used by the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy for policy making in that realm, for decision making, and why the ministry, as of this year, funded this study, how the need appeared, and what can you get from it. I have to press some button, I suppose. Can you hear me now? Let me try. Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm inviting you to this forum. I would like to greet our fellow panelists. As a civil servant from the ministry, I work with the creative industries and all the data related to such industries from the point of view of policy analysis. And in plain English, policy analysis is when we include a real problem of public sector and develop different options for problem solving, pick up the most streamlined and optimal, and then implement it. And according to all the international standards, this process should be justified, substantiated with data, facts, and evidence. Should be evidence, not intuition-based. How it looks in practice, we need some data to detect a problem with the creative industries, which can be not so obvious and not appear on the surface. If we see the growth of tax revenues is developing quicker than the number of enterprises, companies, we can see the tax burden increasing, and we can look into our response to that and how we have to react. And the data we need to evaluate our policy and to decide which of them has best prospects as a policy. If the government, we launch some initiative that is focused on support of creative industries, we have several options: grants, a loan or lending facility program, or lending facilities and grants, indeed, and we have to calculate to decide which option is the leanest, the most streamlined, and where we should invest in the programs. And we need the data to evaluate our policies, just how effective they have been, and whether they have solved the problem meant for their impact. And last but not least, why the data are important, because they help us promote our policy, advocate for it with the government, in front of the politicians. And for example, we say that GDP is not a topical indicator anymore because it's not comprehensive enough in its description of the state of play. We cannot take into account social, environmental points. On the other hand, we understand that when we go to the Ministry of Finance to defend our budgets from applications for creative industries, the GDP data and tax data come very helpful. If we present the policy-making process as a circle, as a cycle, we can see that we need data at every stage. But discussing the governmental approach, we have to take something into account working with the data. We need some interpretation model for the data. What I mean here is that the data, the figures, the facts are self-explanatory. But in fact, this is not so. The data should be evaluated, should be somehow weighed like 4% of GDP generated by creative industries. Is it much or little? When we published the first results of our research with the Kiev School of Economics, we had lots of such questions, and we should say whether it is much or little. In 5 to 8 versus the UK, it's little, but this is higher than the world average at 3.5. This is, so we compare this with a German colleague, and we have to then develop the data and form the creative industry strategies subsequently. Working with the data, it is very important for the state to understand where the mission lays. Private business, big commercial platforms like Netflix, collecting information on the subscribers. And there's this great phrase coming from the Vice President of Global Communications, Vice President of Netflix. There are 30 million versions of Netflix and different proposals for the subscribers. That was the number a couple of years ago, or 30 billion perhaps. So that was the product. Our outlook of civil servants is to look into this realm, to explore it and decide how we can change the status quo. And if there is no interpretation platform, and if we do not know what some criteria should be used for further evaluation, what should be done for them or to them, the data might come useless or even harmful. If we discuss handicrafts, for example, and we say that it would be useful to have the number of gift shops to be included, but as analysts and politicians, we do not understand how we can influence this indicator, and this data would not lead to any useful effect. So it is very important for the data and policies to be reconciled, and this is one of the outcomes of the practical results and the reflections that we had as a result of working on our big study together with Kiev School of Economics. The results you could see yesterday as guest of this forum, because we had minister with us. The process of preparation of this study was quite lengthy and meticulous. We developed the methodology first. It wasn't easy, and we had to evaluate the influence of creative industries over the economy of Ukraine, we match that with different European metrics and the indicators, and then we calculate it. And I would like to say that for the state it's very important to have a system, a technique, and to make a regular breakdown of data for specific spans of times or points of spans of time or points of in time. Sometimes we have to resort to educated guesses, so-called, but we need a system. It should be systemic because accuracy is expected from the state. And we know that the Agency of Statistics is late in coming when it comes to publication for the contribution of creative industries.
So for the past pandemic year, only by the end of this year, there is a delay of 1 year. However, we still can see the rating of doing business, how important is this data, which is guaranteed by the state, which is publicized, and then the data on which the politics is based for the people and beneficiaries. Those are two things I would like to focus at, that the government must provide precise methodology cross-section and also interpretation model that understand how to influence that data and those indicators. Thank you. I will give the floor to Andriy Onoprienko that they can discuss their vision. He can discuss his vision. Why for the research organizations, for the think tanks, it's important to formulate aims and objectives by the policymaker. Actually, from the customer of that study and the organizations that will transform this data into a policy. Thank you for this opportunity. Indeed, if to speak, coming back to generally, what is evidence-based policy, or the policy which is based on the facts and data? In the progressive countries is a standard of quality, which is used by the government. Natalia can confirm when she was deputy minister and trade representative. We cannot imagine that the decision is taken with high quality. Even as a standard, in the life of ordinary citizens, we take some decisions. In order to take such decisions, we need, of course, data, more data or less data, sometimes more in-depth. Coming to business, every time the business owners, company management analyzes financial indicators of their companies and the market on the daily basis in the world, which quickly changes, because this affects to what extent the decisions will be right and to what extent those decisions will generate additional benefit for the company. 1 year ago, the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy made a request to make the study. We have talked to the colleagues, and we were surprised that unlike the standard practice, unlike it happens in most of the central government agencies, the decisions and policies are not developed based on the evidence. Of course, there are questions why it is like that. We'll not focus in detail on it. However, I would like to thank the colleagues once again that I have professionally focused on this matter. When we began to prepare that study, I will present several slides from it. The minister has presented this. We were surprised to what extent the creative industries occupy a significant place in the economy of the country. If you look, as it was mentioned, about 4% of all value added is produced in the sectors that belong to creative industries. About 4% of employment, 30% of exports of all services in the country. great growth, 30% per year for the last 3 years. In the end of our research, what we did, we have calculated 1 hryvnia invested by the government into creative industries may potentially make a contribution into the economy and GDP. And as you can see, those indicators for the last years, for the 5 to 6 years, have increased value, gross value at 31 billion 2013. By 2019, it was 120 billion euro, 4% of GDP. Economic agents, the number of them has doubled. The number of employed in the creative sectors, an increment of 100,000. Also, costs of personnel have increased 2 times. More than 2 times. The question, how much the government can gain from, in order to have a good approach to development of programs and policies to support creative industries. We were also impressed what are substantial multipliers or spillover effects can there be. For example, as you can see, on sectors, on average it's 2, 1 hryvnia returns 2 hryvnia of GDP. Speaking of IT programming, this is 3 hryvnia. This is more than agriculture and industry, more than any other sector. It's much above transport, wholesale, trade, and construction. Also, we have counted, in addition to the direct effects, also induced indirect effects. What does it mean? In addition to creative industries having generated, there are adjacent industries for which the products and services are manufactured. Accordingly, according to our estimates, indirect influence is nearly the same as direct. Induced influence on the economy is even greater. Speaking of gross output, and a bit less than value added, compared to 4%, which was in the beginning of the presentation. That influence is about 8% to the gross output or gross value added, comparing to other countries, whether it's a lot or too little. In Ukraine, 2.2 or 3, the multiplier comparable to UK. In certain sectors, it's a bit less or a bit more. Scotland, more than Singapore, Wales, comparable to Indonesia. Summarizing, we were nicely surprised the way how the colleagues treated this assignment, the way they helped us during the work, and also, as you can see, for the country's economy, those industries is not something small. This is a substantial scope in the economy and in the well-being, in wealth of the country. Thank you, Andrei. Those numbers were demonstrated. If just looking into direct indicators that we can see, we can see one dimension of what is happening to creative industries. If you look in comparison, historical comparison, or compared to other countries, we can see there's another direction. And the third one is when it is spillover effect. So the effect actually are multipliers of what can happen if we start and invest into the industries and sectors, the additional resources. Now I would like to talk to Anastasia and request her to tell about the insights or findings that they had after that study that you did in the field of creative industries, and probably quote some examples of the latest research that you did, including the workforce and talents. Thank you, Natalia. I would like to thank all of you for the invitation and also for coming today to listen to all of us. I will tell you also about where there is a place of data in that cycle of public policies and why sometimes the results of the studies, whatever useful they are, do not become government decisions of politicians. And as Natalia said before, I will share some results from our studies, and I will tell what kind of data is missing about cultural and creative industries. I will speak from the perspective of think tanks. The think tanks in Ukraine are often civic organizations which think how to solve certain problems in the external world, to analyze them, and to develop solutions for them based on their values and beliefs. I believe that belief, that conviction is important, because political solutions are political. They are the collision of interests. They are not neutral. Therefore, when we see the data, on their basis, one can take all kinds of decisions. For example, there is data that some municipal movie theater is unprofitable, and we have a lot of opportunities. We can take a decision that the movie theater must be closed. We can take a decision that the movie theater must be privatized to open a hotel. Or we can take a decision that the criterion of profitability for that movie theater is not most important, and to provide cash for additional funding. The data we have as a result of the study on itself is not a solution. It must be interpreted, and we usually apply our own vision on them of how the future society should look like. The think tanks are focused on getting included into the cycle of public politics to affect those decisions. There are certain stages of the cycle of public policy. It starts when we form a problem. It ends when we take a particular legislation, and this passes a long stage of public discussion, expert discussions, level of line ministry development, a grid book of problems, white book of solutions, approval of the law. On every stage we need data and research. Often it happens that data and research does not become the policy, and there are several reasons. I would like to focus on two of them. First is when we vest a lot of responsibility with the think tanks, and we forget that those are organizations with limited capability and limited resources, which don't have the capability to participate in promotion of such decisions. And also we forget that those decisions are political. Maybe even if the results point to the necessity of a reform, the need to promote a change, a collision of interests, they don't become finally a policy. Finally, I would like to say here that development of the solutions should not be just a job of the think tanks. It must be a wider coalition consisting of the government, including the experts, and including the civil society. Yet it's important to do the research. This year on the SADOS think tank, we have referred to the issue of conditions of labor, labor conditions. In the cultural sector, what are the conditions to create cultural products? What are the obstacles for the people that finally we can see Ukrainian movies, read Ukrainian non-fiction? And we have faced several problems. We found what is missing. We lack quite many data about cultural creative industries. First of all, the main data missing is the data about the universe. We know very little how much in total other people in cultural creative industry. We don't know what is the distribution, how many people work for audiovisual sector, how many people in design and fashion. We don't know how many of those people are freelancers, how many of those people are officially employed, how many of them are individual entrepreneurs. As the data is missing, there is no state statistics of the sectors. It's difficult to formulate a hypothesis for the study. Also, we faced that there is no unambiguous understanding who are cultural creative industries. Even among the representatives of those, there is no clear understanding of who is exactly included. We saw that at the level of the government. Our informants from the government agencies have mentioned that often they face that question: who are the creative industries? How to study them? Therefore, they focus more attention on the government sector, on those people who are involved in the government and municipal cultural institutions. The main thing I would like to say is we lack comprehensive statistics to understand who those people are. And yet we lack knowledge what are the conditions of them as they do their work. We have preliminary results still requiring interpretation and to make a decision based on it. Yet we can see about 38% of the people employed in the field of cultural creative industries, as I say, they have additional job. 57% out of those people say they are looking for additional job because they cannot make enough income. Also, we can see that 26% of the interviewed work more than 40 hours per week. Many self-employed people work at night. We can see the problems of the sector. Those are isolated results that require interpretation. Yet we do this study in order to attract attention to the issue and problems of labor conditions in the field of culture. Not only the field of culture, also those problems are faced by employees of various sectors. It's important to discuss it, to have the studies. Based on it, we should develop the policies. Thank you, Anastasia. I believe that now we review sectoral aspects within the data analysis. Generally, even presuming the pre-sectoral analysis, it's important to have the view from the top, a helicopter view of what is happening generally with creative industries. Now, I would like to give the floor, again going to the sectors, to Igor Yegorov, that he tells us about his insights and findings that they have received as they have worked on smart specialization on the city of Kyiv, because here it's not about sectoral, it's a regional aspect, and this is also a sufficiently interesting thing to understand how we move. Thank you. Indeed, we have worked not only on smart specialization of the city of Kyiv, also several other regions. Why did it happen? Well, the point is that nowadays there was a government resolution that any regional policy must include elements of smart specializations. This is European practice, a good European practice. The idea is quite basic. If you take that idea, we need to define the potential of a particular sector, and based on that definition, quantitative definition, people spoke of data, along with experts to decide on the prospects of development of a particular sector. It was done for the Kyiv city. We had meetings with experts, representatives of the administration, and also representatives of the business and creative business. After that, we have summarized this data and those wishes, and we could present them in more specific form in the program of development of the city of Kyiv, program of development of Kharkiv, Kyiv province, and several other regions. Why is that important from the perspective of the economy? As we said before, it's difficult to prove to the Ministry of Finance that creative industries are the ones generating any kind of value added or any economic effect. In reality, even if we distract ourselves from the model presented by our colleagues from the Kyiv School of Economics, I respect that institution, yet there are similarities worldwide. The countries having the process of deindustrialization more or less quickly compensate by creative industries. That disbalance which emerges in those countries, even if you take the United States, we can see that in the trade of goods they lose to the competition, and yet if you look into creative industries like Hollywood and others, we can see that with that they compensate to a large extent those losses. General losses in the economy, and the balance is not really normalizing, yet the negative balance shrinks. The same is for Kiev. The same process took place in the city of Kiev, deindustrialization on one hand. On the other hand, we can see great potential, human potential in the city of Kiev. Scientific organizations, companies involved in R&D. I read documents from Israel. The road of Kharkiv. Just Kharkiv alone exports products of cultural creative industries for $1.5 billion. Not only important for the Kiev, also for the country in general. Maybe it's for solving our problems, how to transform that data, how can we transform our research into political decisions. First of all, this is part of the program of development of the regions. Based on that, we can influence the government and we can propose specific things which are about premises, office space, creating platforms on the regional level with a particular creative industry or creative sector. However, it's hard, it's difficult. Why? The state's statistics fails to provide sufficient details of creative industries. If you look into NEL's classifiers or activity classification, there are no numbers for us to decide which directions, first of all, have to be supported. It can be transformed as follows. The second thing, on the basis of those outcomes, also we can make pressure on the government. We need them to focus more on the creative industry, as well as education, as well as creating relevant structures and clusters. This is absolutely legitimate policy based on the data of what we have developed. The colleagues say the same. We must make use of it. This is already recorded, registered in all kinds of documents. I believe this is the main way for ourselves and the entire community as we interact with government entities. And of course, I believe that Ukraine still has a great potential which is far from being utilized. And it's good that the ministry is now involved. Indeed, it promotes such opportunities. Thank you, Igor. Now I would like to give the floor to Evgenia Bliznyuk so that she can tell us about sociological data and research as part of our great array of data, which should be a basis for the policy. For me, that matter was interesting when we cannot do with no survey. When there are such cases that quite often we have requests from the ministry and the office of the president to the data statistics and research, and yet sometimes they fail to understand that certain things have to be measured by surveys. Even there is an experience of working for the presidential administration to form the policy. I would like that she focuses on that particular aspect. Thank you for this opportunity, Natalia. Good morning. Ukraine is a very interesting country from the perspective of data and open data. If you look into such global aggregates of statistics as Statista.com or the World Bank, we can have a look. We can see that Ukraine has general indicators, and in the line, in the more detailed indicators lines, we can see non-available, no data, not relevant, because Ukraine is in the zone of deficit of open data and statistical data. In our country, the population census was held in the year 2001, which is 20 years ago. Over this time, there was a change of generations. People have left abroad. Some people have arrived from other countries. So the life has changed radically. If next year we would do a census, we would be surprised of the results, as I believe, because the structure of households and structure of income and structure of education has changed radically. We live on the coefficients about gender, age, and the number of populations. Those are correction coefficients. This data is approximate, as we must understand. When the government agencies refer to statistics, they get into a situation of uncertainty because there are few indicators, hard to verify them, hard to work with them. They're not detailed. As colleagues said before, big delay of the data. They emerge in half a year after the reporting period. Of course, this is needed, and yet it's too late. What is the function of survey when developing policies? Certain approaches to solving particular issues. When we don't have statistical data, we go into the field and we ask people or market participants what's happening. For example, last year we had a study by request of GIZ with participation of experts and inventor group, where simply we have asked representatives of creative industries, please guys, what happens? How do you work? What do you do? What is the format? Now with COVID, does it affect your plans? Actually, via survey, we receive data that we could have received from the open source if the system of government statistics would actually work. That's the first direction when we interview a business in order to saturate, provide data to the ministry or agency. Second situation, when we interview citizens, consumers, in Kyiv School of Economics by the order of European Business Association, we did a survey. How do people consume the content of video? How do they copy it? And we have used it to develop tariff policy about copying of data, private copying of data. Why is that important? People usually provide rather open answers. What do they listen? What do they copy? Because they don't believe this is any kind of violation. Because we come a kind of open country in terms of the content, as I remember. However, based on this data, we could evaluate annual volume to connecting it to the type of device where the content is copied, the type of content being copied, to develop recommendations to the Ministry of how, the European Business Association, of how to connect or link this to the tariff. Tarification of particular device, like a telephone, or tarification of content, or tarification of anything else. So those are general things that give the grounds, because with no data, the experts find themselves in a vacuum of their expertise, where they have to take decisions on the basis of common sense and intuition, which can be correct or incorrect, because the market, the world, and reality change so quickly. Therefore, even using pre-COVID experience is irrelevant, because everything has changed, including consumption of content, dissemination of content. People began to look to to view in different from different devices. They have a different demand. This should be taken into account as one develops policy, and we still have data with a delay of 1 year. Over 1 year, everything is changes in the modern world. Summarizing all that, I can say for sure that first of all, using data, open data and survey data. Secondly, verification of data. Very clear approach to what is necessary. The quality can be different. Of course, with bad quality data, one can take bad quality decision. Number 3. No, with no doubt, in every ministry we should work that one can accumulate detailed data about one's industry and the processes. Thank you for this. I believe that, as I understand now, the importance of the question of having the opinion and entering the audiences as one of the sources for formation of data for their policy. Now from Andrei, I would like to hear a summary of what we have discussed and a summary by the example, including a national economic strategy. When forming it, actually, all preliminary studies were taken into account that were made before, and also new data was studied, and innovative instruments were used to form the higher level policy. There is a phrase which I like, it's called supreme policy. So it's our policy. Speaking of economic strategy, this is actually our policy, supreme policy. Based on that, one should build every other policy.
Many people present here contributed to this work. And when you develop some kind of strategy, you try to rely on data. For 27 years, I've been doing that for all the commodity markets in the regions in Ukraine, several countries. Ukraine perhaps is the only or one of the few countries in Europe where we have to question every single figure from the official data, every single datum, we can say, data coming from individual companies. Why even the Euromonitor? For many countries, we can use the baseline data. In Ukraine, sometimes they think in a different order, by 10 times, not some kind of percentage. And this is because we indeed have this difficult situation with the things that we fail to understand, the internal system of statistics, the internal situation, the domestic situation wasn't arranged. Is design, is everything about it. Graphic designs and fashion designs come from the same realm, or fashion design is more about clothes. Graphic design is a different story. How about architectural, landscape design? How can we separate these things, tell one from another? So to build up a strategy, you have to have objective information at hand. You have to dive deep, but you cannot do it every time, every single time. That's why what we do, we try to arrange it among business communities. This unity in collection of data, analytical data more specifically, so that different think tanks putting together their research
have 360 degrees of understanding, like they did it with the national economic strategy. The expert with GSZ, with Gradus, we did the primary research for the situation in business. And we did that for the national economic strategy and the anti-crisis situation. Business, as we discovered, is not sure of tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Most of our strategies are based on this lack of certainty. And there's no certainty in Ukraine, but there's Poland, there's Lithuania, and the strategy of an average company in Ukraine is how to test their strategy. So the national strategy should be a reason for individual changes in individual strategies. Creative industries provide us with raw material, not the agribusiness, not ferrous metals. And creative industries, we just export raw brains. We do not produce products. We sell working hours, and the products appear in Poland, in the Baltic states, in the States, in France, in other countries. So the key idea is to transfer that to fashion industry, software development, graphic design, product making here. Of course, this is part of the creative industries, but we also can see that Ukraine is losing to our neighbors. Last week we had this Odessa strategy. Strategy making is in creative industry in its own right, but Odessa is not about hospitality. Odessa is not about cuisine. The only city in the world that has its own urban cuisine. What else should we add for creative industries? The only city in the world that with its own urban cuisine lost that battle completely, because there are just 5 restaurants in Odessa which promote this cuisine, just 5, and they have thousands of them. And this is not a reason to be proud or to base on this smart specialization. And we found answers also there, based on a different type of data, not the data on the past. Like one of the beautiful professors once said, best practice is poison. That's Professor Ellingstad. It's the best practices and his historical data prevent our development. They actually arrest our development. The best data is the best that is available for extrapolation, has nothing to do with the way place where the world goes. So it's simulation, new type of data, intentions of the people prepared to take the driving seats, the interests, and this should be looked into, and you have to know how to manage that. Primary data, not retrospective, but prospective, when you have the future, and from the future analyze change. This is a new type of approach to data analysis. So when you see, for example, some studies where less than 1/3 of the Ukrainian businesses adapted to change, develop their own adaptive products. This is the key problem for also for developing creative industries, which is archaic, too archaic to compete openly. And we are living in this open world to such an extent that our market is not Odessa region or Ukraine for that matter. This is the global market. Whatever you do, graphic design is a global market, fashion is a global market. Even if you build a coffee shop, and that coffee shop, it's a recent trend. You can see what Chrestiatic, the Ukrainian Kiev Broadway is like. This is a place where Arabs are looking into the Ukrainian culture, like the coffee shop at the Institute of Journalism is an open world
coffee shop. Italians and Arabs meet Ukrainians there and look into the Ukrainian cuisine also. So in this open world, it is important to master the trends, and we need a different simulation approach, and we would like to discuss this today. Thank you, Andrei. I think that was an excellent summary of what we have discussed today. And this is about trends, and this is about this fact that we cannot just copy-paste some copycat using other countries' experience and the methodologies used for such research. I would always maintain and propose when we are offered some international experts to come to us to make some policy, I always say yes. In a big Ukrainian team, they provide us with a prospect, with a different outlook, and it is very interesting to see some and hear some from somebody else's perspective about the same thing. It is very important. Extremely important to also try to form your own technique or methodology, as we proudly say in Ukraine, and our own solutions. It is not always necessarily a success, but we all learn from it and from everything we do. To study data and to use them for policy making, we also are learning, and like all of you in all your walks of life, and the same is true with the representatives of ministries and the government, central agencies, how to use data in a correct fashion, because this is a difficult avenue of approach, but an absolutely necessary one. And on behalf of the expert community, I would like to say that we have to form this opinion in Ukraine that policy not based on any data is uncertain. It's a problem, actually, and if we can achieve that together, it seems to me that we will have more successful policies, or policies doable and workable, result-oriented, a positive result in our understanding. That we say that for creative industries, development of creative industries, can we have the GDP, can we have global businesses, more successful campaigns globally, but coming from Ukraine, it's not world limited to Ukraine, like Andrei said, and success in creative industries is measured globally. And we have to remember that this is diversification of our ingoing channels, the revenues in hard currency. It might sound old-fashioned, but we have to understand that when we say that we export creative industries, goods and services, this is about independence also from certain fluctuations, the volatility, the new know-how that we get from our partners working with them. The globalization of our businesses, there's potentially about investments, so as a rule, all the international investors come to businesses either exporting or being part of those global chains. And we have discussed a lot. Here's my short question before we get to the Q&A. I have a brief question for everyone here, I mean the panelists. If presently every one of you is a person that can use a magic wand and change approach to collection, processing, and use of data in creative industries, 3 things that you would do. I love playing this futuristic game. It's not about resources. Let's say, imagine that we have unlimited resources. We can change anything, practically anything. Yes, please.
Thank you for your question. I would like to tell you that perhaps I would have an anthropocentric model. When we discuss creative industries, cultural industries, we also have to understand what it will be like, how it will influence people employed in this field. We have to discuss labor conditions and collect data. And secondly, I would do it by all means to have a census, and not just to get the data about cultural and creative industries, but things happen in Ukraine, who the people living here, what their housing conditions and working conditions are, and the mode of the operation and that. I wouldn't abuse or wield any magic wand, because as a civil servant I understand the advantage of caution. And we have a framework in 2018. We reflected that in the law, and the regular reviews or overviews every year. I would keep updating the techniques, revising the techniques. We shouldn't be afraid of that. This is done by the SMS, British analog of the Ministry of Culture. They have incremental changes, regular Kaizen approach they use, and the commercial databases. This is the trend, I think, to analyze the same process coming from different sources of data. The British had a great graphic distribution of creative industry. They took the public sector statistics and some data coming from passing scapings, their own methodology, which allows for understanding what the state cannot provide for and what is missing. The streamlining for IT and creative industries, you don't take it into account, they argue. The QEDs, publishing houses, printing facilities, instead of them, we have to keep updating and diving deeper into the sectors, developing sectoral techniques, taking into account my discussion commercial database, internet database. And this is something, it seems to me, that can provide for this incremental development, not too critical, but with the institutional memory and heritage preserved. Thank you, Andrei. I would like to join the chorus, so to speak, and put my name to the previous statements. With the magic wand a couple of years ago, we tried to analyze the regulations containing financial and economic feasibility studies or justification. 95–97% of the regulation have no such feature or manipulate insignificant, negligible figures. I'm very much frustrated with that. I would like to have a totally different situation for the majority of our public policy to be data-based. The Ministry of Culture are trying honestly. They should be used as an example for everyone else, and we can expect help from the think tanks available in Ukraine, and that partnership work or partner work, and the pools, like Evgenia mentioned. We understand that we can see this next development in improvement of our methodology. For example, we have to update the cost matrices with the specific data not available with the open sources. Thank you, Andrei. Evgenia. Thank you very much. I would wield the wand quite decisively. I don't think we have to be shy with that. the census, I would like just to join this opinion. We have to understand what our country is like, how many retired people we have, children, the creative industries, other industries available, education, labor migration, people abroad, relatives abroad, faith, and so forth, because such parameters critically influence creative industries, how people consume the content, what kind of content, the devices. And the second thing I would like to suggest, I would do that, and that is something I missed in my operations as a civil servant. This is cross-verification of great bodies of data open, coming from the government, because presently they are like different galaxies. They are not connected. There's something with the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Finance, and those registers, those databases do not have anything in common. They are not connected. We used to have that great big idea to have an integrated register of data to analyze much more and see much more, much bigger picture. And thirdly, it would be just cool to have continuous monitoring of the social moods, or social states, people's inclinations, intentions, to put together the data on the social moods and social stratification, how people identify themselves, because we have just the political dynamics, preferences, likes and dislikes put for different parties, but the social moods, they are not connected, and they're compartmentalized. And with the three pillars, we would be a happy digitalized country, seeing everything. Andrei. Creativity versus figures. Creativity is creation of an absolutely new, continuously new thing, continuous change. Also with the classifiers, also with the lines delineating different areas being blurred. Yes, we have to watch the trends, monitor the trends, but the point is that when we introduce certain limits and classifiers, and when describe creative industries, we do it from inside, not for the market. I have a designer agency. The majority of my colleagues have this information consultative services, not designer services. I have a business related to hospitality industry. The majority of it is done through individual business agents. That's how they are registered. It's all about points of sales, of information consultations. So that's how they are registered. And this is also true for IT. There are some invisible spheres for the public sector, like inventions, patents, champions of inventions, wondrous analytics, the patents which have the value for the first positions in the Ukrainian Forbes, the top 10. Are they in our statistics or any kind of official body information? Are they ready to enter that space? Do they expect anything positive from the state? When civil servants say that we do not need any magic wand, and sustainability is key. Sustainability is key when you have strong institutions serving business, economy, and development of communities. But when we have institutions which do not enjoy any trust, their sustainability is an enemy of the state. When we fail to establish trust inside the market with the creative industries and the hospitality industries, we didn't do that. And I'm telling you this as one of the coordinator for development of that part of the economic strategies that had to do with creative industry, industry of hospitality, even champions of our change have no trust. This digital transformation ministry, no trust for them because we lack the objective positions and objective interests. We do not trust each other because we do not show our cards, our hand to each other in this game. So business is not ready to trust government, but also they cannot share, are not ready to share the information on themselves if they have the census, if we have the census. This is the strategizing between business and government. This is my key request for the interest. Igor, I would like to say that I agree almost with everything that we've heard so far, but just one remark, bad statistics, bottlenecks and so forth. It's not true for all the statistics. The foreign trade is a monthly delivery. The periodicity is set by the state agency of statistics. We can do it even more often. We have to work with the state statistical agency and put pressure on them. Of course, this is more difficult because not all the forms are collected, but we can change the design for collection of this official information. This is number one. Secondly, about the statistics again, I understand that we lack some pieces of statistics. There are two big classifiers for foreign trade and for domestic production of goods and services. They are not matched. They are not reconciled, and we have to continue, and then we'll have more information. This is the second point. And the third one is, indeed, the census is needed, and needed badly. I have mentioned this on several occasions, even with Ella Libanova, who is director of Institute of Demographics. There is another way. It's not a substitute, but we have to understand that this is another way to go. This is about reliable samples. And this is Vladimir Zariova's technique based on the households information. There are data, and I understand this is not a solution, this is not a silver bullet, but partial at least that can compensate for the faults that we might find in modern data. And we need more radical things. We need more cooperation between business and the state, and we have to use the data for coming from businesses, coming from the business community and business practices, but without due diligence we cannot do. My personal experience is negative because we wanted to examine innovative activities. We did it twice and failed. We have to put a double pressure on them and the public sector to do something for the people, for the business, not just for themselves. Thank you very much. Now, on my last remark to conclude this about the three things, what I would do. First of all, I would at last increase the number, the analytical capacity of the ministries. Let's be frank there. We have no analytical capacity. We have no strong analytical departments, and unless we have that, we won't have the data-based or evidence-based policy. I worked for business, I worked for government, and I could feel and detect the difference. The analytical data for business available, people ready to process and interpret that data in question. in business and in government. Another point I always mention, I always say that I will this and I want all Ukrainians to support champions of collection and application of data policy making. Think the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy. They are the champions. They are the champions of the world. And thirdly, I worked for the government. Now I work for business. My magic wand is there to stop any changes of the central agencies responsible for policy making, because we have creative industries. They belong to the Ministry of Economy, then they belong to somebody else, then the fatherless children and motherless children. That was my second comment. Nobody owns them, they're disowned completely, and then somebody owns them again. All of a sudden it takes time to adjust. For tourism and hospitality, we can see the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Culture, now the Ministry of Infrastructure, and how this influences this stability, information of trust, like Andrei said, of business in policies made by the government. There's no such trust. Let's thank each other. Let's shake hands with each other. And we have whole 3 minutes for the Q&A, if the audience is ready with any questions. Otherwise, we are prepared to discuss the rest of it over a cup of coffee. Thanks to the audience, thanks to the panelists and the Ministry of Culture for initiating this very important forum that allows this discussion of the. Thank you very much, and I'm getting smarter and smarter, more intelligent all the time. Now I understand why we have analysts, why we need them. Now we have to digest it all and do that in the wings of this event. So for that we need a coffee break. It will last for a whole hour. There is still a lot to come. I can announce at 1400 on the roof the fashion module. Irina Dolevska will be the curator, head of Fashion Council of Ukraine. Legal aspects on collaboration with Ukrainian brands, the legal discussion, the digital, all the captains of fashion industry will be there. The 5th floor will start at 1500. The panel discussion, main challenges for successful operations of writers and publishers, Irina Slavinska, executive producer of Radio Culture, radio station, Peter Pomerantsov will join us with his discussion. I would like to stay here, but I have to run because I have some work to do. 5.0, you have the QR codes on your pages at the 5th floor. Zimovats module panel discussion, how creative economy can change business, society and the state, moderated by Daria Zarivna, founder of VECT from the presidential office, advisor to Andrei Marc, and it's handicrafts and pandemics. Open opportunity. Maria Senchova is the moderator, founder of ethnic consulting company Dreams of Maria, the Ukrainian. Cultural funds, 1400 to 1600, amphitheater on the 4th floor. A lot of things to expect, a lot to embrace. So have a break till 2 o'clock and stay with us. This is our 2nd day. Creative Ukraine, stay with us.